Hi, thanks for tuning in. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably struggling to lose weight, curious about trying a new diet, or perhaps tired of yo yo dieting. I've decided to make this video because I couldn't find any information out there that packs all the pros and cons into one. So make sure you stick around until the end where the real magic happens, and I'll reveal which diet takes the crown and which one might surprise you. Here we'll explore everything from plant-based to all animal-based diets. I'll get into the pros and cons to each one: vegan, fruitarian, vegetarian, pescatarian, IIFYM, which stands for if it fits your macros, low carb, low fat diets, intermittent fasting, keto, and the carnivore diet. And then I'll show you some comparisons to each one as well as rate them from best to worst. Before I get into it though, I just want to preface that this is based solely on my personal experiences and body reactions to various diets. It's not a commentary on anyone's beliefs, philosophies, or dietary choices. We all have different reasons for choosing the foods that we eat, whether it's for health, ethics, culture, or personal preferences. So remember that this is all about personal experimentation and learning. Also, I want to point out several factors that play into determining the right diet for your lifestyle. Some of these include your health goals. So maybe you're someone who's aiming to lose weight, or you're trying to gain some muscle or improve cardiovascular health. Maybe you have some allergies or food intolerances, or you have some ethical choices like veganism. These will definitely limit certain food options. Also, you might want to consider nutrient requirements based on your age, your gender, and some of your health conditions. Also, any underlying health conditions that may require specific dietary considerations, like your medical history. You might want to think about your activity level or some of the intensity of physical activity that you engage on a daily basis. Another thing that you want to think about is the affordability and availability of certain foods in your area. Also considering your work schedule or your social activities, how frequent you travel, and time available for meal preparation. And lastly, you might want to consider some cultural and personal preferences, like the foods that you enjoy, some of your cooking habits, and any cultural dietary norms. So taking all of these factors into account really helps tailor a diet plan that is sustainable and effective for your lifestyle and health goals. So just for context, I have been pretty active since 2005. I'd go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week, and I was such a cardio fanatic. I used to run 3 miles daily, sometimes more if I had more free time. And I'd lift weights as well as do like some high intensity training. And back in 2012, I was vegan, and I was able to stay vegan for about 3 years. And this diet really you're just eating only fruits and vegetables and no dairy and no cheese. So some of the positive things that I've experienced during this diet was I did lose some weight. I had muscle loss, which may contribute to the weight loss. And I didn't have any muscle tone definition. Also, I did not measure this, but research states that eating a vegan diet lowered their cholesterol. And something kind of unusual that I just wanted to throw on here is that I felt so much in tune with nature, meaning that I wouldn't need the alarm clock to wake me up. I would hear the birds before they would chirp in the morning, and when the sun starts to set, my body feels very tired, letting me know it's time for bed. Some of the cons on this diet is that I had extreme gas and bloat. It was always an uncomfortable feeling, Also, I felt very spacey the longer I was on this diet. I would forget certain words to finish a sentence, or I just feel very forgetful. Sometimes I would even worry that people I'm talking to would think that I'm dumb because I was so slow at thinking and I had lots of brain fog. I also got my blood work done, and results show that I was vitamin B deficient, which is very common with people on this diet. Also, there was a lot of social challenges. I couldn't eat out at certain restaurants when my friends wanted to. But nowadays, they make vegan accommodations everywhere that's readily available, which was tougher back then. Lastly, I never had perfect skin. However, I did notice that my acne would get worse on a vegan diet. In 2013, I decided to give Fruitarian a try. It's still considered a type of vegan diet, but more extreme, where you are only consuming raw fruits and no vegetables. A typical meal could look like 10 to 30 bananas in one sitting, a whole watermelon, or even a box of mangoes. So some of the pros on this diet is that I felt definitely lighter in weight. I had bursts of energy where I could go for a run after a little consumption of fruit. Another thing is that I saved a lot of money on this diet. I could go to a local grocery store, and sometimes they would make or they would have a box of fruit that is considered too ripe, and that was hard for them to sell. And I would buy boxes of fruit for less than like $15 to $20. It was so cheap, these boxes can last you for an entire week. As for the cons, the same applies from the vegan diet, where I experienced extreme gas and bloat, lots of brain fog. I did have some social challenges, and my skin did not improve. During my third year on a plant-based diet, I decided to give vegetarian a try. Here is a picture of me during this phase. Now, let me just preface again that I have been active since 2005, doing lots of cardio. And also, I was very consistent at lifting weights at the gym 4 to 5 days a week. Some of the pros on a vegetarian diet is that I had frequent bowel movements, possibly from the consumption of lots of dairy. Also, it's still very budget friendly, and some days I would experience some weight loss, but it would fluctuate every week or so depending on how much I ate. I never tracked, by the way. As for the cons, same applies. I was still very gassy. I had a lot of vitamin deficiency, and I also put some weight here because, again, I never tracked. Therefore, my weight fluctuated. Also, because I had more variety to my diet, especially eating a lot of cheese and those fake meats, it really contributed to some weight gain. Late 2015, I started incorporating fish and seafood in my diet, also known as the pescatarian diet. Here is a picture of me several months into this diet. Nothing was changed to my routine. I still did lots of cardio, but I had stopped running 3 miles a day. Rather, I measured my cardio by duration instead. So I did do cardio for 30 minutes a day, and I did lift weights at the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I feel like I look a lot slimmer in this photo in comparison to my previous photo. I believe this is due to some muscle gain, consuming more protein on this diet. What I really loved about this diet is the variety of foods you can eat, especially going out to eat at sushi places. I also found that my digestion was fast, knowing that fish and seafood takes about 2 to 3 hours to fully break down. Another thing to consider is that I was consuming higher omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA, which may have contributed to more brain cognition. I definitely noticed a difference not having to be so spacey as well. As for the cons, I felt that I was consuming a lot of mercury, especially from the canned fish products. This probably was the cause of me having to urinate frequently because I know that mercury poisoning can affect kidney function. Lastly, although not that important, if you do cook a lot, your house may have a fishy smell if that's something that bugs you. So these are just some of the things you might want to consider. So here I am on the If It Fits Your Macros diet. It is a flexible approach to weight management. Instead of focusing on strict calorie counting, it tracks macronutrients, specifically protein, fat, and carbohydrates. You can enjoy any foods as long as they fit within your daily macro targets, which is a welcomed change from traditional diets that restrict food choices. I discovered this diet from a coach that I hired to help prep me for my first bikini bodybuilding competition. However, he never coined it if it fits your macros or anything, because with that, you can allow some processed junk food. But during my prep, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with bodybuilding, a prep is just a rigorous and highly disciplined phase of diet and training specifically designed to prepare their body for the competition stage. I would still calculate macros, however, I strictly ate 90% whole foods. And this diet allows more variety and flexibility, muscle definition, and it can promote good habits because it teaches you portion control. The cons, however, is that you have to get out of your comfort zone and actually have to start tracking. You can start tracking your macros through free apps like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. The beauty about this is that you can get the hang of it after a week or so if you eat the same foods consistently. Another con is that you may experience being hangry at times of the day due to hunger. Another con is that you'll need to learn how to meal prep, which could be time consuming for others or time savers depending on how you look at it. And lastly, you have to stick to a routine or schedule of eating. So for example, eating every 3 hours, that would be part of your schedule. Okay, so here's me during peak week, and peak week refers to the final week of competition, and this is where it gets crazy because I had to manipulate my carbs, water, and sodium. So in this video, I was weighing in about 102 pounds, consuming less than 800 daily calories. I was very low in fat, very, very low. I was consuming less than 10% of the total calories from carbs. So I was getting in less than 20 grams, sometimes none at all. And then I was consuming less than 30% of my daily calories from fat, which was less than 20 grams per day. This protocol is very similar to PSMF, which stands for protein sparing modified fast. And I call this a protocol because it is not recommended to do for very long periods of time. Maria Emmerich talks about this a lot on YouTube. She recommends no more than twice a week, depending on how much weight you have to lose, because protein-sparing modified fast is just a short-term approach for rapid weight loss. The pros for this diet is, of course, extreme weight loss and can be used as a good detox. As for the cons, you'll experience extremely low energy. For instance, I didn't have enough energy to stand or walk. You'll be also very emotionally unstable and very sensitive. Like for me, I had lots of mood swings and I was depressed at times. There would be episodes where I would find myself crying. Also, I couldn't even think straight. I had lots of brain fog, and this is not recommended at all. And if anyone who decides to try it, just make sure you don't have to go anywhere. Just think about staying in. Sometime in 2018, I dabbled into intermittent fasting, also known as IF. There are different types of IF. There's the 16-8 IF approach, which involves limiting your food intake to an 8-hour window during the day and fasting for the remaining 16 hours. Here, you'll abstain from food during the fasting period, but you're still allowed to drink water and other no-calorie beverages like plain coffee or tea. There's also OMAD. OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. It's a variation of intermittent fasting where you just eat one substantial meal within a 1-hour window and fasting for the remaining 23 hours of the day. Some of the pros I experienced during this diet was that I was highly focused and productive. I got a lot of things done throughout the day and I felt very sharp. I wished I discovered this during my college years because I think it would have benefited me as a test taker. Another pro is that this way of eating is pretty budget friendly because if you're eating once a day, you can save a lot of money on snacks. Some of the cons I experienced was that I think my cortisol levels were very high. I believe this is because high cortisol leads to belly fat, and for some reason my belly started protruding outward even while I was consuming less food. I also worked out consistently and I felt discouraged from all the hard work I would put into the gym. In addition, once that eating window is open, the moment I would put food in my mouth, all hell would break loose and all of these food triggers would just start happening. Lastly, I'd experienced food comas. After eating a big meal while fasting beforehand, my insulin would just go through the roof and I'd just get so sleepy. Now, for the keto diet is a low-carb, high-fat eating plan where 70 to 80% of calories come from fat. This shifts your body metabolism away from carbs and towards fat and ketones. It can aid weight loss and has potential benefits against diabetes, cancer, epilepsy, and Alzheimer's disease. Some of the pros to this diet is that you will experience food satiety where you feel fullness and satisfaction without having to be physically uncomfortable. Also, you may experience weight loss and improved brain cognition. Here's me on a keto diet. I think I was combining keto while I was intermittent fasting during this time. So as you can see, I don't have some crazy muscle definitions. My lines are a lot softer, which could be a con to some people. Other cons are weight gain from overconsumption of dairy. This is what I experienced because I was so into heavy cream and other dirty keto products that were readily available in the markets. And this diet also can be expensive as well. Lastly, your body will go through a temporary phase. It's known as the keto flu. When starting out, you will experience fatigue and irritability just because your body will need to adapt to using ketones as a source of energy rather than carbs. In 2018, and again recently this year, 2024, I decided to take the keto diet to another level, the carnivore diet. This diet consists almost exclusively of animal-based foods such as meat, fish, eggs, and full-fat dairy. It excludes all other foods. The pros to this diet is absolutely no gas, and I experienced no bloat. You will experience food satiety, improved body composition, improved brain cognition, strength, and lastly, in this diet, you do not have to calorie count, which kind of lifts off weight off the shoulders for some people. I did a video last 2 weeks ago about the carnivore diet, so if you haven't checked that out, it was my first 2 weeks of experiencing the carnivore diet, and I listed the symptoms and the benefits that you can get out of this diet. Now, the cons to this diet is that you may find this diet to be very boring. You may find a hard time consuming lots of animal fat because I know that, the only source of energy that you'll be having will come from fat. And I had a really hard time consuming fat. This diet can be also very expensive, especially if, you have only certain meats that you really like, for example, ribeyes or beef ribs. Also, if you do work out, you won't get that pump feeling in the muscles at the gym, so say goodbye to that. And there will be a period at the beginning where your body will have to go through an adjustment phase, just like the keto flu. All right, so here's a visual representation of my body transformations to each diet. Please note that I was active on all photos, doing strength training and incorporated cardio on a daily basis. When I was plant-based, I didn't look and feel my best. I was constantly always bloated. And when I adapted the If It Fits Your Macros, the flexible lifestyle, I have to say that I came in on my tightest and I packed a lot of muscle during this phase. But when I was low carb and low fat, although I was very lean, I couldn't see any muscle definition due to low carbs. I could say the same thing with keto, except with keto I was carrying more fat and I wasn't as tight rather than more soft and jiggly. And as for being carnivore, I definitely kept the weight on, carrying a lot more muscle. However, I barely saw any muscle definition, especially around my arms. Okay, so now I'm going to rate each diet based on how extreme or strict the diet is, from most extreme to least extreme. So the diets that I found to be most extreme is the low carb, low fat diet, the fruitarian diet, carnivore, and then vegan diets. These diets may be very hard to sustain. The least extreme are intermittent fasting, pescatarian, vegetarian, and if it fits your macros. Now I will rate each diet on how accessible it is from best to worst. The best diets for easy accessibility are pescatarian, vegetarian, if it fits your macros, intermittent fasting, and keto. You can find many of these foods and certain ingredients almost anywhere, which may be sustainable for some people. The worst are carnivore, vegan, fruitarian, low carb, low fat diets. Next, I'll rate each diet on convenience from best to worst. The best ones are keto, with all the cool, readily available keto snacks that they have nowadays. Pescatarian, where you can find fish mostly anywhere. Intermittent fasting, this one you don't even have to eat anything, just wait until your feeding window. And the carnivore, since you can find beef jerky even at convenience stores. The worst diets I've found that are inconvenient are vegan, fruitarian, low carb, low fat diets, because with these you will definitely have to read labels and make sure that there are no other ingredients in them. I also included if it fits your macros on here, only because if you are going to be eating frequent meals like 6 meals a day and chugging loads of water, let's just face it, it's not convenient at all. You'd have to be carrying Tupperwares of small meals throughout the day, and you would have to be using the bathroom quite frequently, almost like it's a part-time job. But of course, I mean, if you find a way to divide your meals into bigger meals but less frequency, if it fits your macros, can be considered one of the best diets for convenience. The best diets that are most affordable are fruitarian, vegan, vegetarian, intermittent fasting, and low carb, low fat. Fruitarian being the cheapest. The worst are carnivore, keto, if it fits your macros, and pescatarian. I put carnivore as the most expensive for me because in order for me to stick to this diet, I had to buy my favorite cuts like ribeyes. However, you can make this a cheaper option by buying ground beef and eggs. Here's another interesting one. The best diet for gut health is the carnivore diet. I had no gas and I had no bloat. On the contrary, the worst diet for gut health for me was vegan. The gas was just unbearable. I'm just being real. As for the diet that is rated for best aesthetics, I must say is the if it fits your macros diet. Something about having the correct amount of carbs, protein, and fats. They just know exactly where your body needs to store them for some reason, and it just gives you an aesthetically pleasing looking body. Playing around with the macros can also be like a sculpture to your physique. The worst aesthetics to me, based on my experience, has to be the plant-based diets. However, please note that it could be totally achievable to have an aesthetically pleasing looking body on a plant-based diet if macros were counted. I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's totally possible. In conclusion, all diets can work if it's followed correctly. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. Each diet has its own benefits and can be seen as a tool or protocol for different situations. So which diet is the best? I do have to admit that I felt my best eating the if it fits your macros diet. I feel more confident. I don't have to limit any food categories. I've discovered how to make my favorite meals into healthier versions without even feeling like I'm missing out. This diet just definitely taught me how to eat properly and helped me crave for healthier options. But what about for you? Can you thrive without meat and dairy? Or what if you don't even like fish? If it fits your macros or keto, are you cool with tracking your macros? Are you cool with going low carb? I mean, does it even have to be an all or nothing approach? Who says? Just listen to your body, explore, and find what fuels your vitality. If you have no idea what bloats you, just try the carnivore diet for a week and then start adding one food at a time to see what is the cause. You know, the best approach is just to find what works for you, and you can view the information that I've given you as just tools rather than just rules. And then you can adapt all of these things to your specific goals. The most effective is the one that you can maintain and what makes you feel good.